Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my blind reading of The Eyes and the Impossible. And remember, blind just means I've never read this before, so everything is coming at me as a new surprise, just like you guys who are listening. So there's that. If you like my content, please click like, subscribe, dingling the notification bells, and remember, I'm doing this for the American Cancer Society August Read-A-Thon. So I will have the description and links in below for you to go and donate to the American Cancer Society. Okay, so last time we left on a cliffhanger, and I'm going to open my book up to the right page because that would be helpful. We'll be starting on chapter 4 today, and we'll get to an illustration, I think, because they seem to be spread out. All right, chapter 4. Remember, there's something going on, and the dog and Johannes and the others don't know what it is yet. Chapter 4. Normally, I avoid the plaza. The plaza is a gigantic tiled area in the middle of the park made for the humans to walk around on, and thus there are too many humans there, and too many humans in uniforms, and humans in uniforms, parks people, police people, are best avoided by free dogs like myself. So I don't get too close to such places. But this day I was wandering near the white glass cathedral of flowers, and then saw some new colors and shapes in the plaza. So I ventured forth, but was also on high alert for the uniformed people and the helping people and all the hassles inherent in highly concentrated humanity. Just as Angus had said, there were new rectangles, not like the maps and signs all over the park. These were rectangular, like normal signs, and they were colored, but they were different from signs. Some seemed to be pictures of rocks and boulders, but of a size that was clearly far too big and simply not right. Some were pictures of streams that were far too wide and long, and also the wrong color completely. To me, this was confusing. I got closer. I will be unhumble here and tell you that I am not a dumb dog. I pick up on things. I ascertain things. Sometimes I downright deduce things. This is why I am the eyes, and why I report to the bison, and why the animals of the park generally take what I say to be reasonable and true. So in this case, I inferred, another thing I do, that this was a kind of show where humans who create pictures put them up and have people walk slowly by them. I don't know why the walking by is important, but it was done very steadily and carefully, so I deduced that the point of the whole thing was for the humans who made the pictures to have them showing on their little walls, and then hope that other humans walk by slowly. The walking by slowly was not much stranger than the roller skating, although I must admit it was not as entertaining. But the rectangles I found riveting. Some showed sailboats, and I had seen sailboats in the ocean, but the humans had put the sailboats inside these rectangles, and that was a pretty good trick. Some contained people, and I had seen people too, but they had put them inside these rectangles, and that was a pretty good trick too. Some rectangles were of buildings, some were even of parks and trees, and all of them were good tricks, and I felt proud of the humans for making these rectangles, given that they are so incompetent at so many other things, such as running at light speed, and I do that with such ease and flair. I saw one that was even more impressive than the others. It was about the size of a garbage can, but seems to contain another world. There was something like a human child's face, but it was like a human child's face in a hurricane. The sky around the child was dark and flashy, but the child's eyes were serene, serene in this hurricane. And there were birds all around, but they were flying upside down. There were 1,000 stars, sibling suns, but they were somehow inside the child's body. I know how improbable and wrong this sounds, but it was all there in the picture. And there were so many more things too. It had all kinds of objects I'd seen in the world, but in a way that was impossible, but seemed both scary and right and even comforting when inside that rectangle. I couldn't look away. I was sitting on my hind legs at the edge of the forest about 20 feet from the picture and found myself in a state of hypnosis. If the point of the pictures was to have people walk slowly by them, this one was very successful. People walked very slowly by, and they said things to each other. One family walked past, and the father covered the eyes of his youngest child, and they walked by quickly. Well, the mother lingered for a second longer. Then finally the family walked away, and I stayed, looking more at the picture, luxuriating in it. No one could see me because of my dappled coloring. I tend to blend into the woods, even enough that no one takes notice of me unless they are looking for dogs generally or me specifically. That's why I was surprised when I felt a hand on my hide. I jumped, startled, and when I landed and turned, I saw the terrified face of a small human child. It was the same child whose eyes had been covered by his father just a moments before. But the child's eyes were open now, staring at me for a moment before they clenched, mouth twisted, and he began to cry. His father emerged and asked him what was wrong. The child, in an act of treachery, pointed to me. That dog bite you? The father asked, and to his credit, the boy shook his head. Had he said I'd bitten him, the parks people would be relentless in their search for me. Instead, the boy made a few motions as if he were splashing in the street. He's just a stray, the father said. Now, another man, older, the grandfather I assume, approached, shooing me like I was some common animal. I figured it was time to go. I don't know why I stayed even that long. When your body tells you to go, it is imperative that you go. I ran, was gone from the scene in seconds, but I was confused about myself. I hadn't been touched by a human in 1,000 years. What has happened? What is happening to me? How had I let that happen? Here's another illustration of the dog jumping around by the stream. Very pretty, very relaxing. Must be one of those rectangles in the park. I figure it's got to be an art show. Chapter 5. In the bison pen, I told them about the building under construction and about the new rectangles full of gorgeous commotion. I did not tell them about being touched by a human boy and the people shooing me. You say they were giant rocks? Freya asked, and streams 1,000 times bigger than they should be? And even some human children inside a rectangle? Not real human children, I said. A picture of a human child, like the picture on your fence. On the fence enclosing them, facing the humans, there has always been a picture of a bison. It is a simple picture, a silhouette. I see it every day. It is just a picture of Freya and the rest of them. It is exact. It looks just like them, their size and shape, but the picture I saw of the children in the rectangle was different. It was not exact. It was more it was more than exact. It was like a world in a storm, real but overturned, real but exploded. There was a storm, too? Meredith asked. Inside the rectangle. Not a real storm, I said. I didn't know how to describe it. It was just the feeling of a storm. And the stars were inside the child? Samuel asked and turned to Freya. I think this dog has eaten one too many pupusas. Really? I didn't have answers. Somehow I hoped the bison would know more than they did. Despite their limited mobility, their judgments are sound. They tell us when to worry and not worry, when to fight and when to wait. But I often forget that the bison have not left their enclosure for hundreds of years. They were inside this fence when I was born, as long as I have lived. They have never left. Of the outside world, all they know is what I tell them, what the assistant eyes tell me, and what they can see from the road that runs along their pen. I'm going back tomorrow, I told them, and I'll get a better look. I'll be able to describe it better. They asked me if I had seen anything else of interest that day, and I told them only that the building going up near the rectangles was proceeding at a quick pace. Meredith sighed. The buildings bring more people. More cars, Samuel said. It seems to me Freya said, that you should be increasingly careful near these rectangles. They cause me some concern, and your great interest in them causes me concern too. I wouldn't want you to be taken in by some kind of dark magic, some kind of seizing light. Remember the deer? There were deer in the park, but not too many. They were not good near cars. In fact, they were strangely susceptible, oddly vulnerable, especially at night. There were few cars in our park at night, but with their bright lights, blinding, moving moonlights, they were visible a million miles away and so easy to avoid. The deer, though, they were drawn to the lights and caught by the lights and killed by the lights. Every few months we found a deer in the road, struck dead, and it would baffle us all. Why did they get so close when the lights and sounds and smells of the cars were so obvious? We all have weaknesses, Freya noted. I don't, Samuel said. We all have something that blinds us to threats, Freya continued, ignoring him. I thought of the stories I heard about the bison's ancestors. Perhaps these were rumors, but I have heard that they were once so many bisons, they covered the land so thickly you could barely see the grass underneath them. But then men came and shot them with ease, with the bison failing to fight or even to run until almost all were gone. Only these three were left. I said nothing to them about this. I have never brought up stories of their past, their ancestors' lives. There's nothing happy about those times, nothing tolerable even. I'll be careful, I said. Please be, Freya said. That night I thought of the rectangles I had seen, the madness within. My mind was so excitable, so scattering and bursting, that it took me a long time to find sleep. I had to do what I always do with my mind when my mind will not rest. I recited what I know to be true. God is the sun, clouds are her messengers, rain is only rain, until I finally was pulled under by a great soft hand of sleep. I'm going to read one more chapter. Those two were pretty short. Chapter 6. The next day I went back. I went back to the rectangles. Yes, it was part of my route, first of all. Of course it was. Of course it was. It was on the way. I had to check on the building they were building, being the eyes and all, but I also thought if the rectangles were still there, I would briefly check on them too. So I ran like light through the surrounding woods and was sure I was not seen. I could not be seen by any human eye, for I was faster than ever that day. In fact, I passed a pair of starlings in the lower boughs of a live oak, and they said, "You are so fast." And I said, "You are so good at recognizing the obvious." Ha ha! I said this because they did not hear me. But they did not hear me, for with every word I had traveled 1,000 miles at indescribable speed. So the words, as I said them, were only distant memories to them, dust from the planets long gone. Wow. And I went past the Cathedral of Flowers, past the roller skaters, past the Cape, who was dancing on wheels, and then, as I neared the new building and the rectangles, I slowed down, because my favorite rectangle was still there. I slowed more, and soon I stopped, seized by it. It took me in, the swirl of it, the illogic of it. Why was there a child in those winds? Why were there stars in the daylight sky? And then I noticed the trees in the picture were golden, every part of them golden, as if they swallowed the sun. Why? Who would have them this way, when in life they are not this way? And in the corner of the rectangle, finally I saw 100 or so grasping human hands, and these hands were all blue, when in life there are no blue hands that I have seen. Why would this picture be this way, I wondered. Why? And then I felt the movement of the air near my neck. And then I felt a snake on my back. And then I heard a click. I had been staring at the picture, wondering if maybe such a scene was possible, and I could ev- and would ever and I sorry and would I ever see such a thing myself outside of a rectangle like this, when I felt a tickle around my neck. That was it, just a tickle. I didn't think anything of it. I thought it was a bug or an inchworm or even duck feces, another thing about ducks, and I wanted to get closer to it, uh, to try to understand it. And so I dropped to walking position and moved forward, and then it happened. I felt a tug on my neck. I never have worn a leash, but right away in my mind said, leash. I turned around and saw the legs of a man. They were covered by green pants, and the green pants were covered in mud. I craned my head upwards and saw that the man was a young man, and he had attached a leash to me. It was a simple blue rope that he had somehow clipped onto my neck, and he held the rope in a knot around his filthy hand. I looked up at the whole of him. He was not tall, not round. He was thin, angular. He had pale pink skin and bright blue eyes and the beginnings of a yellow-red beard, and wore a kind of cowboy hat with a string around his chin and held it to his angular head. His vest was black, and over it he wore a long blue coat with slashes dangling to the grass. I had seen this man before. I couldn't recall when or where, but I knew he had been identified as a trouble traveler. Those we never forget. "We're going to be a team, Splotchy," he said to me. "That's your new name, by the way." He tugged on the leash, and it was horrifying to have this rope telling me where to go. I can't explain the shock. I turned my head against it and felt a sharp pain in my neck, my shoulders. I dug my claws into the soil to slow the turning of the planet, to stop this from happening. "Let's go," he yelled, and yanked on the leash, and my feet left the ground. He was stronger than he looked. He yanked, and I flew toward him and let out an involuntary yelp that filled me with shame. Then I landed and realized I was now leashed. He turned me away from the light and the pictures and into the darkness of the woods. Wherever he walked, I had to follow. I was now kept. While looking at the pictures, thinking of other worlds, I lost my freedom in this one. As we walked, I thought and planned. My mind was in a very swirly state for sure, though. I have swum in the great ocean and more than twice was tossed in the cruelty of a crashing wave, rolling in the white, the shushing, the close to oblivion. My mind was like that now. He walked us through the woods nearest the sea. Pulling against the leash had been painful, and I didn't want that pain unless I was sure it would come to something. I decided I needed to bide my time. Think, I told myself. I followed, examining the humans for weaknesses. The leash was wrapped around his hand like a bandage, his bony fingers entwined with the rope and holding tight. It would not be enough to simply pull against him. He weighed more than me, and the rope would not break. After a short walk, we came to a large vehicle with great black tires and a pipe at the back spewing black smoke. The man who held me knocked me on the back of the vehicle, and a door opened. "Look what I got," he said, and he yanked the leash so my head rose to face the humans inside. At first I saw only one of them, another man, this one with a bright yellow suit, yellow hair, and hard green eyes. But then, under him, a mound stirred and sat up and became a woman with stringy black hair. Her eyes opened wide when she saw me. "I've seen that dog before," she said. "What's his name?" "This is Splotchy," the man who held my leash said. "I got him near the new museum. He was sitting there just looking at the art like some kind of connoisseur. He just stared and stared, so I snuck up on him. It was the easiest thing in the world." "Hey, Splotchy," the stringy-haired woman said to me. "I'm Pamela." She scratched me behind the ears, which felt so good my ankles tingled. But then other hands were touching me, and the more hands touched me, the more worried I got. "Twisty, are you sure this isn't someone's dog?" Pamela asked. "You see any tags?" Twisty said. "He's a stray." Twisty gave the leash another tug, as if to show that I belonged to him. My head jerked, my neck throbbed. I thought he'd come in handy when we make the journey south. "We need a lot more money before we do that," the yellow-haired man said. "We'll get it," Twisty said. "I was even thinking this little guy could help. Some family comes up to pet him, and you guys take a bag or wallet. Nice." "Oh, man," Pamela said. "That's so twisted." "That's why we call him Twisty," the yellow-haired man said. and giggled with an incongruous falsetto. Pamela took my snout in her hands. Do you want to help us get some money, Splotchy? Do you want to be an accomplice? I wanted neither, and shook my head free. A few hours max, and then we go, Twisty said. We'll wait till we see what Rainbow says, Pamela says. For now, though, get inside and close the door, dummy. Twisty gave me a kick in the hindquarters, a yank on the leash, and I was forced to jump into the vehicle. The doors closed with a reverberating thump. Oh my gosh. One, I don't like this Twisty guy. Not only is he not being very nice to our boy Johannes, and who names a dog Splotchy? Honestly, the nerve. It's so. Ugh. And then he's going to use him in a scheme to steal people's wallets and purses? This fool better get arrested. That's what I think. All right, that's it for today. If you like what I'm reading, my content, please click like and subscribe, dingling the notification bell. Donate to the American Cancer Society, and I will see you next time. Roma, Riva, and Krishna. Auntie Heather loves you very much. Auntie Heather loves the rest of you too. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.